The Let's Be BudZ show is for adults 21 plus only. Content is for education and entertainment. We don't sell or promote cannabis. Please follow your local laws and consume responsibly. Opinions are our own. Keep all products away from children and pets.
Are you ready?
Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome. Joined as always by my chief button pusher, Dave, our plant whisperer, Josh, my trusty co-host, Emily, and of course our eye candy, Russ. Good to see everybody tonight, and of course you in chat. Where the hell are you? Here for our draw for the Lost Coast Plant Therapy 32-ounce bottle and some really cool gear on the first the first Wednesday of every month. Say hi in chat and you'll be enrolled for that. Good to see you, Haas Farms. Hey, we got a great one. Sorry, go ahead.
We're gonna draw. Can't be an early bird if we don't draw early, right?
Oh, I'm so excited! I'm in this one. I never get.
If you're over on my Instagram too, you got to come over to the YouTube if you want to join in. Because I see a lot of people here. So,
hey, Doc. Okay, good luck, Doc. You're in the draw for the first Wednesday of the month. So we do have a great one for you tonight. Breeder Steve is going to be joining us in a minute, and he happens to be our seed sponsor as well. What am I? Oh, and then we've got the seed, or we've got the community grow along coming up. We'll be sharing that more information about that later on the show, and of course, Josh is going to give us an update on his ecosystem in the second hour. So I guess without any further ado, let's welcome Steve to the show.
Right on.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hey.
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, Steve. It's so good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Boy, oh boy, there's so many things I want to talk about, but we got to start somewhere. I noticed recently you started a new Spice of Life podcast series, touching on certain topics, and then doing a Q&A as well. I just was interested in what your inspiration was behind starting that.
Well, it's a good question. I've been a guest on them so long. Every time that I do them, people always go, "You should make your own. You should have a podcast." So I mean, eventually, after hearing that for I don't know how long, quite a long time since I've been doing them. So finally, I was going this winter. I thought, I'm not planning on. I don't need to be anywhere, so I'm going to be home a lot. So I said, why don't I just record a bunch of these and see how they go? If people like them, we'll keep doing it. If it's not worth the trouble, we won't. But we'll see. So far, it's been fun. I've enjoyed doing them, so I think we'll keep them going for a bit, and then hopefully we'll keep doing it.
Your podcasts, are they recorded, like pre-recorded, or are they done live?
Well, there's both. There's kind of three styles of them right now. One that is pre-recorded, where I just riff on a topic, Say I'm talking about aquaponics or whatever this week, and I'll run on about that, So I do a bunch of. I had a list of topics like that to do solo shows, and then I also wanted to do casual interviews, not like formal interviews, but more conversations. So I call it conversation series, and then talk to friends that are activists or players around the world and get a insight into their situation and see what's going on all over. And also some of the unsung heroes as well as the sung ones, I had Ed a week or two ago. That was fun. And the last ones I'm doing once a month, I'm doing the live Q&A, where I say, ask me anything cannabis related,
Very cool.
One dude was asking for dating advice, and I really held back because I was opening it up, and I was pretty tempted to be like, personal hygiene, very important, how often
swipe
do you
right
shower,
or swipe
Anyway, I didn't want to get too sidetracked.
But a few stipulations on that one. So now, are these ones then you've completed the topics that you've wanted to get through, or have you expanded that list?
Yeah, I keep expanding the list. So I've got through like a lot of the, let's say, low-hanging fruit, like obvious ones for me, but some of them, I did them with a view to there's going to have to be a part 2 of this, so I'll go back to some of the favorite ones and then expand on those further. And I knew some when I started them that they were, really just scraping the surface,
What would one of those favorite ones be that you want to go back and get a deeper dive into?
The selective breeding. Definitely. That was one of the early ones too. The soil blending and the aquaponics. So both of those were definitely worthy of more attention, I think. The people seemed really interested, and they asked lots of good questions in the comments. And there was enough good questions in the comments to go, man, I should do another episode just answering all these, because there are some good ones, So we'll just see how it evolves, I don't...
Those could each turn into, there's such intricate and as well as like vast topics, like just the thought of hydroponics or aquaponics. Sure. Here's what that is, but also there's a lot of different channels we can go into with
That's
that.
right.
So
that's right.
I feel like that's it snowballs onto itself for what you can cover.
You're right. That's it.
You can definitely snowball.
Yeah, you can go down the rabbit hole in any one of the topics and get lost in it. And it's great because you're never done learning, and that's half the battle is just trying to keep up with how much we don't know. Like really, there's especially when it comes to cannabis cultivation, you can get into so many versions of it, whether it's indoor, greenhouse, outdoor in different climates, and all of those scenarios, have come with their own trials and tribulations, let's say. But if you're indoors, you might learn more about electrical and plumbing. If you're outdoors, you might learn more about tractor repair. Totally different skill sets that have to go along with them. So it's fun you know, in that it's an ongoing challenge. You know, you become that jack of all trades with master of none. But as long as you're having fun with it and keeping some good grass going, you're doing a good job. I have my hats off to Josh here. I'm so happy to meet him because I've totally been loving following his account because it's clear all of the soul, you know, that goes into that is really, you know, it's like a middle finger to the world that just worries about grams per watt and yield. It's like, what's the gross national happiness of your garden, you know? And I totally love that, you know? Like reminds me of Bhutan.
I wasn't even thinking about that aspect, but yeah, you're right.
It's funny. I thought that was the greatest thing when Bhutan came up with that a long time ago, right? But in the last year or so, one of the best movies I saw that really stuck with me was called The Monk and the Gun, and it was shot in Bhutan, and I highly recommend it. You know, it's one of those smaller ones. You know, it's not put out by Netflix. I forget who directed it, but it was super impressive. If you get a chance, check that out. But that's a neat place, you know, different philosophy and community. Interesting.
Absolutely.
One of your recent podcasts was comparing making wine to growing cannabis, and I thought that was interesting. There's a lot of compare, and I know you have an extensive
growing it, processing it, drinking it, appreciating it, curing it. You know, like there's just a parallel universe between them. You know, you're creating.
I think when you can find something like an analogy to something to help somebody understand it, it just gives them a way to correlate the information and they have a way to process it. And I never thought about it with wine. I've always looked at specifically when it comes to like cannabis breeding, looking at it as like dog breeding and the way that those genetics and stuff go. So that's the way that I've always kind of put the two. And I like that when you look at it with wine and the cultivation side.
Well, for breeding, I would feel you too. My grandfather, one of my grandfathers, was a dog breeder. And he bred hunting dogs, you know, beagles. And he would go from Ontario down to Kentucky and that, and come back with all these trophies. He had a trophy room for his dogs. Crazy. He was really into the dog breeding.
I worked with the AKC for a while, and I was a dog groomer and everything. And so seeing, you know, the different breeds that would come in and just trying to uncover, like, what do you mean this is a golden what now? You know, and having to figure out what all these new breeds are and everything. And then I came into the cannabis field after that. And so I'm seeing people's genetic descriptions and I'm like, hold on, let me follow that back. And
that's neat. That's
the Labradoodle.
Yeah, exactly.
I always love that meme that says, like, you know, humans breeding and they've got a pug and then it's got a wolf and it says natural selection. You know? I feel that, you know, it's like, okay. Anyway, sometimes the best you can do is just let it fight. But with the wine, it's like you're cultivating, crafting, you know, moderate intoxicant with moderate health benefits, you know, or extreme health benefits in some cases, you know, but overall wine maybe not extreme health benefit, but who knows? I think a lot of moms would argue, you know.
I know there's somebody's old nana out there somewhere that's saying, no, I'm 101 because of this glass every day. So.
Yeah, I like my wine, but they're just obviously, you know, when I didn't always like wine, but I mean, I knew I didn't know anything about it. Like we used to have the odd wine, but I hadn't really given it any thought until I moved to Europe in '99. And then I was more exposed to wineries and pairings, multi-course things, and say, okay, this is fun. You know, I started to get into it and go on wine tours and stuff. And at the same time, you know, I was growing and making delicious hash, and I'd be smoking hash and drinking wine, and they just worked well together. I thought.
You're pairing wine with hash.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Anyway, so other thing was, you know, I was in Europe growing, and we would have trouble with thieves at various places, and especially on the bigger places, because you can't really hide, football field that easy. People are going to see it. If there's roads to it and roads past it, it's out there. People know that weed's there. So you start having problems with thieves, as you do in most places. But I would see these vineyards and I'd be like, man, nobody's looking in those vineyards for weed. I could hide a lot of weed in those, One day you got to have some vineyards, because you got drip lines in the sun and your cover crop to be out there and whatnot. So it's just, pleasant thing. And making wine, if you love wine, it's not it's a labor of love. Same with growing your own and making hash and rosin. Some people just want the convenience of buying it in a pen, and that's up to them. They want to buy live rosin pens. All the power to you. But lots of us just love the process of growing the plants and having the experience with them, and the attachment to it. So I think you do have a different level of appreciation for it when you've done it yourself. That's I don't know too many people that grow their own that don't feel that way.
Well, just the satisfaction in knowing, everything that went into it. You don't have to question anything because
and
the entire process.
And what didn't go into it, most importantly, because it's more like I don't trust weed from people I don't know. Like I don't, because
that's one of the hardest things.
On it.
No, that's one of the hardest things, especially being like having fun in the community and wanting to go and meet people and experience, like events and things like that, or getting the opportunity to be a judge for these events, which, oh my gosh, how amazing would that be to be asked to do that? But at the same time, I do sit there and I think, would I accept that? Do I trust that many random? I don't know.
I think of all the nasty ass shit I must have smoked in my life, like many years ago. And I think, oh, well, I can't. But mostly like 99% of what I consume now is my own. But I still will check out some that friends send me and stuff because I know they consume just as much as I do, and they're not spraying their own herb with anything,
Steve, and I know now the whole reason why I actually am a little bit hesitant is due to, so my dad and his friend, he went over to go help him. He helped him, grow for years and stuff, and just giving him advice. And he grew organically, this friend of his. And he's like, well, I need some help. I just need this set up. So my dad actually goes over to his house and to the grow, and it's in his basement. And he's walking around and there's a pipe that's pretty messed up. And my dad's like, yo, that's asbestos. And he's got like his kid down there, like sweeping it up and stuff. And my dad's like, that's not cool. And he's like, no, it's fine. I got filters. And they walk around it straight into the grow. And he's growing organically. But my dad said, I'm not smoking any of that anymore. And that kind of put it into me that was like, the environment matters, you guys. Like everything
that's
around
nasty.
it matters.
That's nasty.
I'm just gonna say right there, straight out, like, still be cautious, even if that is a friend, even if it's somebody you trust, because your quality or your priority level in sanitary may not match theirs, and yeah, I can only imagine. But that put a stop onto me, and so I feel bad even sometimes being around friends and stuff, being like, actually, I'm okay, because I haven't seen where you grow before, so I don't know if I trust this. And it makes me feel a little bad, but I'd rather be safe than sorry at this point.
I pinch my lips really closed like this, and my beard filters all that out.
You've got iron lungs, iron gut, iron inside somehow. Nothing can affect you in any capacity. So you don't count. What you consume is just
mayhem.
Yeah, you just fold it up. Just fold it up.
Fold up and be good.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there's the filter. That's the type of HEPA filter I need.
Fold it 2-3 times and it's just double, triple portion.
Yeah, no, that scared me, man. And how somebody can be so lax around it and just feel safe or comfortable and think that somehow that is not transferring into their grow. And they're like, well, I grow organic. This is totally safe. Who truly knows? So that is, it makes me a little scared when I do.
Yeah,
I love trying different cultivars and everything. And that's kind of the best way is meeting people and getting to taste test when you're, at events and things like that. I don't have the time to grow it all. I wish I did.
I'm a sucker for anyone that says this is my favorite stuff. I'm like, all right, let me try it. No, I haven't heard the favorite. Let me try
You
it.
gotta try it.
Twist my arm. Twist my arm. So, Steve, for the benefit of people that maybe don't know you, you've been famous for some pretty incredible strains down the in history. The Shishka berry comes to my mind right away. What were some of your favorites, and more so, like what inspired you to maybe to grow that? Well, let me maybe start with Shishka berry, because I know I've had some personal experience with that, and if you wouldn't mind just giving me a little bit of the background of that strain.
All right. So, a Shishka berry is the only thing I ever made that had two mothers. So there was two Afghanica cousins, almost. I'd say there's two different Afghan dominant plants, and there was a red line and a yellow line. The red line was a little faster. It had rounded tops and darker green leaves and red petioles. And the yellow line was a little paler, took another week or 10 days, and was a little frostier. But both of them were very much commercial flowers. They didn't have a lot of color or character, really, but they just had visual bag appeal. I say, like, just being frosty enough and heavy enough, because that was mid-90s, and weight was the primary criteria for people, not potency, not flavor. It was like, has to look super frosty and fill a bag, because it's illegal, so people wanted to get their max, poundage. So these were grown by a friend of mine that had some commercial grows, who people would, at the time I knew him as Tom, but you'd know him now as Big Mike from Advanced Nutrients. So the two mothers came from him, and the father was a blueberry selection that was truly incredible. And I've told the story a few times, but for those who didn't know it, I did a selection crop in the summer of '96 in my backyard in Vancouver with about 1,500 plants from seed in 2 gallons, all the way around this pool, really in the middle of the city.
How many seeds did you germinate to get 1,500 plants?
Well, I think we put like a seed a pot back then. Later I would start even higher numbers and start them in trays, and then transplant them every 2 weeks and cull like 3/4 or 80%.
Would you just do it like average by weight, or would you actually be counting every one of them?
By weight.
Like if you're doing it by a tray, if you're just sprouting them in a tray, are they each in like different pods? Or
Single,
put
them across the pods.
And, oh no!
Yeah, I would try and just pick like your favorite quarter of the tray to put into like 4-inch, 10-centimeter pots, right? And then after 2-3 weeks in those, you go up to a 1 gallon or a 2 gallon, and I would just take the best 3/4, 80%, and then the numbers start dropping drastically once you've done that 3 times, so you can start high numbers of seeds and really select for the most vigorous, or if the one you're looking for has a purple stalk or a lemony smell or whatever, even looking for those little ones, you'll start to find the ones that are aiming the direction you seek. And so I just start thinning them out, per transplant. But back that summer in '96, that was the most I'd ever been able to put out, because I'd just been doing gorilla patches mostly up to then, and a couple of like closets, or I had a balcony with like 30 or 40 on it with a decent little terrace. But the next summer, starting 1,500 seeds with the goal to find, of course, any nice females, but also the best male, and that I had planted, of all the clones I'd tried in the year or 2 before, since I'd moved to Vancouver, I'd collected everything. So I had maybe 5 clones that I thought were promising at the time. And I had about 14 lights ready to go in the basement, chock full of them at like the 5th week of flowers. So they were ready for pollen, and I had it timed for like mid-August. So I'm like, surely I'll find a good male for mid-August, take it in. And it was out of 5 blueberry indica seeds that Mark Emery had given me that were directly from DJ Short. And DJ came and actually, the second time I met him, I think it was when he came to the house and visited me there. And so he saw that plant too, actually. But there was 3 females and 2 males from the 5 seeds. And the 3 females were all runts. And I ended up being so disappointed, I didn't even let them finish. I just chopped them down and threw them away. And one of the males looked like those 2, where it really had like hardly any bud and it didn't give much smell or anything. But this one male had darker green leaves, looked totally different than the other 4 plants, and did that claw thing, had the real lavender under the leaf, and it had a chromatic resin. Like it looked like oiled ball bearings. It wasn't white or clear or amber. It was like metallic, this chromatic look. And I thought, man, that is the craziest resin. And it had a dark purple stem, and it smelled like the most amazing, blueberry jam kind of smell. And I was so taken with it because I was like, oh, this is going to bring a lot of color to anything it hits. But also, in some cases, I already knew I wanted to try and like stabilize a grapefruit seed because it was a clone only I had. So I thought if I cross it with something purple, it's going to be really easy to pick out the green ones for the back crossing that most resemble the mother. So it'll be easier to separate later too.
Yeah.
But in itself, at the 50%, they were absolutely dynamite. That was the sweet tooth. But when the red and yellow were hit, I put those seeds together and released that as the shishka berry. So there was, but most of the shishka berry I've seen stand the test of time. Most of it has been red line stuff, but it's interesting to see anyway. But there was the first couple releases were made in Vancouver, and the last couple were made in Switzerland. So very long time ago. So that was probably the last shishka berry release I did would have been 2002.
What,
so that was
what when you said that you like were hope you had enough time to like pick out a male, like what specifically are you looking for with that, or how far are you letting it get into its flower stage, I'd assume? So
this is excellent timing. It was an estimate that I'd usually started seeing males early August, and by mid-August they're ready to blow pollen. So I was kind of aiming for mid-August to have, hopefully, if I didn't find a good one, I might not have made any seeds with it. But I thought if I find a good one, I want to make sure I have a room full of my 5 favorite types. And the main thing with the Afghan wasn't that it was my favorite bud, but it was one of my favorite for hash, was the different Afghan lines, right? And I do love good hash. But I thought it would be nice as bud if it had a little more fruity character and some color to it, get some purple in it, because it was really kind of bland, 2-dimensional commercial genetics, Yeah. So it needed a lift, it needed a lift. So that totally gave it a lift, and I just did them inbred lines, and there was shishka berry 1 and 2 were just called shishka berry. Then there was a shishka berry 3 release and a shishka berry 4, which wasn't released. But in that case, yeah, it was just, getting started. I was in my young 20s, and I was like, I want to try all the seeds I get my hands on. If I find something special in the male department, at least the timing will be good. I'll have I didn't want to spend all that time running the selections indoors in the summer when I could do it outside, right? Yeah. And my policy back then, as I was getting going, was to run 2 generations indoors and then one generation selected outdoors. So you select for indoors and select for outdoors, even in some of the same lines. So then those lines became, better for it. And people would tell me that, hey, it worked great inside and outside, but that's because I take them outside now and then. It's like, if you just keep them in your basement forever, they don't learn to stand up in the sunshine,
Yeah.
So it's good. I think it's great to do, if you can do a selection round outside. Like, if indoors is totally your focus, you can just keep breeding indoors. But I think even 2 generations a year is still good, like it's still fine for indoors. But the outdoor one just gives it a little harder shake, because it's not as pampered, with the controlled climate. And the wind alone, that makes them dance and it makes them strong, and it'll knock over the weak ones, like you kind of want to let it go around where you're just selecting for sturdiness and hardiness.
Now, I've got a question for you, if you don't mind letting me kind of pick your brain and get some plan laid out, because this summer, my plan, I do want to select males specifically for a breeding project that I would like to kind of work on. And so I know the plants that I want to use and what I want to do with it. But I'm just not sure kind of then. I was planning on popping them outdoor and searching for the male, but I don't know exactly what stage I need to look for to figure out what's going to be a good one. Sorry, hold on one second. Kids don't like the storm going on. We got to get the dog in the room, keep them safe. No. But so the question that I have, so the plants that I want to work with are going to be GG4, which is going to be the female. And I want to, could I get it out of there just to make sure I've got the cross right? I think they're in the top right, the limelights. And then the one that I chose that I want to cross her to is going to be 2020 Mendocino's Limelight, which is Mendo Banana to Key Lime Pie. And I just selected those because I figured, all right, flavor-wise, I want to look at something that's way different than GG4 personally, because I don't like smoking GG4. It gives me like a lot of sinus headache. So I want to introduce something completely different and lower that pinene, because I'm like just allergic to pine. But also GG4 is really weak in her stems, like in her branches. And so she gets, nice heavy buds, but she can't support herself. And so I was hoping, according, to Russ, who's grown out plenty of Mendo stuff, they've got really strong genetics, like really strong branches and strength and stuff. So I figured that would be a good reason to choose from their line for it. But I've not done like a breeding project before, aside from just trying to chuck some pollen at something and say, what are we doing with this? But I want to be more intentional with it. So I'm not sure where to go, but I know I need to first pop these limelights and find a male, because the GG4 is the female. So I'd at least know that's the first step.
Well, why do you want to use the GG4 if you don't like it?
Because she's supposed to be really good at being like a heavy medicine strain, and it's really good for pain management. And I've got a lot of that. So I want to get benefit from her. And I haven't found any type of pain management in other strains that I've smoked before. But a lot of people.
Also, there's an upside to it for you, the pain management. Okay. So you want just better tasting pain management that doesn't give you.
That I don't get a headache from.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. If you've got a pack of seeds, you're going to find a couple of males probably. Mm-hmm. And you don't know if they're dominant or recessive for anything until you've used them, really. So you could take, say you had 2 most promising males. That's what I would do. If you had 2 most promising males, I would try and just harvest like a top off of them.
Okay.
And what I do is tape them inside a shoebox lid, and I line the shoebox with parchment paper and some cheesecloth. So when you snip that bud before it opens, but when it's right about to open, and then you kill the rest of the plant. You can tape a couple buds if they're small enough, but Otherwise, if that'll open in that shoebox, you can even poke a few holes to let moisture get out in that, or put desiccant in at the bottom if you want. But I find if you pick it really at the day before it drops, it's not an issue, and you'll just come in the next day or two and it'll have dropped so much stamen and pollen, and you'll be able to lift up the cheesecloth and just have all that, chalk yellow pollen on there. And you can just use that. You can fold it up and go and pollinate one branch with that if you want. You can make it into an envelope and even tie it over the branch or something, but you don't even have to. Just wait till there's really no wind, and then just put that thing over a branch. You could probably wipe a couple branches, or you could take it out on your finger and hit it, whatever. But just pollinate. You can independently pollinate a couple branches on, opposite sides of the plant, and
with
have
like the two different
yeah,
males.
you could have two different males, and then you could grow out A and B and compare them and see. And it's nice if you still have the male as a backup, and then you can reuse it. That's one of my greatest regrets early on, was not saving the best males as fathers. Always save mothers, never save fathers. Started to regret that and started to save fathers. The dad lives matter, so you got to get some in there too, so when you find a good one, you want to be able to reuse it and recreate the exact same line, right? So when you find a great stud male, you can keep them around and use them over and over again. And that there's some benefit to that. And
so
especially if it's known progeny.
I won't be growing the male out then to full flowering. I'll be harvesting it right before pollen is dropping. So I'll need to figure out what I find as a promising male, like what I think I want the plant to express, even though I don't know if it's a dominant or a recessive gene.
Depending on how many pods.
Yeah, because generally, what the basic rule of thumb is like beads alike. That's sort of, if you want a purple one and you've got a purple one and a green one, probably pick the purple one. But some people say, yeah, but it could be a recessive purple in the green. Well, there could be, but there could be a trolley car behind the moon too. But I mean, it doesn't, whatever. It doesn't matter. But if you want to, cover your bases, you could try two different males out of there. And then if there's, for whatever reason, you don't like even that's the minimum for keeping lines, because if you're line breeding, you're keeping, like, at the very least, this would be the start of line breeding. So you've got A line and B line, and that could be every 3 generations, you cross those 2 lines back together. And that's how you avoid them becoming inbred. So once they become too inbred, you get to F7 and they're losing vigor. That's how tomato breeders and everybody would do it traditionally, is keep at least 2 lines and then reintroduce them every 3 generations.
What you're meaning, keep 2 lines? So I would always keep a GG4 separate and a Limelight separate, or you're saying
no, the progeny where you pollinated 2 branches, one with one male and one with the other male, then those are the 2 separate lines.
Oh, so I would just keep those as the moms throughout, and then the dads.
Well, it would. You can find mothers, and you can find daughters and sons in each line, and you can continue to go inbred. At the same time, you could always use the same pollen to pollinate a Gorilla Glue, and then you're getting a back cross to the Gorilla Glue. Or if you want to use one of the daughters and then use the father again, you can be doing a back cross to the lime side.
Okay.
With a paternal back cross, right? You have a maternal back cross or a paternal back cross.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's just dependent on what I'm trying to still bring back into the line.
Yeah, because you're going to check out these lines, and you could have 2 lines, and you could have 4 lines. Like your lines can multiply. It's hard to thin them out. But the bare minimum, you got to keep 2. But you can do these experimental lines. You don't have to use them all, but you have more to choose from. Yeah. So it's nice to run a few side by side and see which you prefer, because
so I really need to also, not only do I need to learn more about this breeding, but I really got to get into that tissue culture stuff so that I can save all of these generations and have them available.
Clean it up. There's a lot to be said for tissue culture, for sure.
How do you even store them all if you're trying to save lines like that? I just need the storage.
I was fine with, is back in the day I didn't have tissue culture, and it was just a question of keeping them in a small pot, like a 1-gallon pot, and never letting them get big. Just leave them on shelves with fluorescents, and then I would just keep these little backup ones on shelves. Obviously today you'd use LEDs, but back then we had shelves with fluorescents and just 1 gallons, or even like solo cups, and just I would keep 2 backups of everything that ended up going out to the field. So if I started 10,000 seeds, thinned out 80% 3 times, then it'd be like 100 each time to take to the field from that line. So of the 100, they've already gotten, knee high in a 2-gallon. I take off a couple backup cuts from each one. Once they're both alive, then I'll even take one of those and sex it, so I know sooner. And then, but just, you got to keep 1 or 2 as backups. And then whenever I'm going through the field and seeing ones that I'm not impressed with, I'll be writing down their numbers, and that's the kill list. And when you go back to your backup garden, you just go kill everything there. So you want to kill them as fast as you can, but not until you see their true colors. Once you see,
same strategy.
Okay, this one's off to the races. It smells great. Put him in a bigger pot. We're gonna keep him or her or whatever. Like, let's get it. So you can have both a kill list and a upgrade list. If it was a special for any reason.
Do you use the same strategy with your males? Keeping males, because I know that if I keep a male in a 1-gallon pot too long, that sucker will try to fucking.
Yeah, no, I would keep them small too, but 1 gallons would be the max, really, unless I was growing it up to pollinate a greenhouse or something, because I would just take like 4 knee-high males, and then I would hang them in the rafters at the intake of the greenhouse and just let it just blow down the greenhouse. I'd have to be about 30-40 pounds of flower in there that would get hit, and you end up with a decent pile of seed, maybe more than that. Ended up usually, I think I averaged about 12 kilos per greenhouse crop for clean seed. So that's throwing away probably the same amount of seed, but the nicest, perfectly clean seed would be about 12.
Is there a pretty average timeline for what generation you'll start to see things really even out for what you've been selecting for?
Well, it always depends what you're starting with. So the majority of things are polyhybrids, and that's fine. And that's why pheno hunting's a thing, because you don't expect to plant them and see it totally stable like a field of corn. You're going to get some tall ones, some short ones, some purple ones, some green ones, some that smell like vomit, some that smell like berries. Like they're just about everything out there, I think, is I'm not saying everything. There's obviously some breeders trying harder than others, but sometimes everybody starts as a pollen chucker. And so even if you're starting a new place, I think it's a hoot to throw some new stuff together and check it out. And that's half the fun. But you can find some beautiful stuff, but you can also find some lemons. Well, that's the risk. But with feminized seeds, I find you're always keeping an eye out for hermaphrodites. So with male and female, you're always keeping an eye out for males. And the males are generally easier to identify. The hermaphrodites are trickier, so you got to really be on your toes with those. But whenever you're trying new stuff, you've always got to keep an eye on it for sure.
I'm really looking forward to seeing, like, I really want to just pop the whole kind of pack and see what germinates from it and how many are male, female. Because if I find a female that smokes great, damn straight, I'm putting that in garden, you know? So
yeah, just and even you can use the same pollen to hit some of that, or to hit 2 branches on it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
then you've got 4 lines. You've got your pure lime, and then your lime glue.
Yeah,
so then you've got 4 lines to run, and you might have an easy favorite and you can start a lot more seeds next time, because now you've got 400 or 500 seeds from that one branch, and you can say, well, I'm going to start 200 of those, and I'm going to just thin them out whenever I see a runt or whatever, just knock it out. And then,
I think it's really interesting
you'll have
that
fun with it.
It only stays in like a gallon for when you're ready to pollinate, because you're right, like it doesn't need that much plant.
You don't need it. Yeah, you don't need that much. You can take a cutting off it, just keep it in a solo cup on a shelf somewhere, because you really don't need very much pollen to hit a couple branches, really.
But I do have to worry about it kind of trying to flower out, like drop pollen, if it is kept in too small a space for too long. So I will have to keep moving it or resetting it. For a male.
You got to keep an eye on it. You definitely got to keep an eye on it. It's nice if you can separate the space, but I've had them side by side in the ground, so I couldn't move it. But still, I was able to harvest seedless females around it, because I cut it down the day or 2 before it would have opened, and then most of the male bud I just junked it, but the top of it I put in the shoebox and got enough pollen off that to do a branch or 2, and then I started having handful of seeds, and I was like, okay, now I can, start a lot more seeds. And I always liked that idea of just start a huge number of them and thin them out, and you can see the results. Like even the first time I ever grew bud, this is kind of a fun story that takes the point, was from Jamaican brick that we've been getting imported. And we get it from these rastas in Montreal that would import it. And it was in a white can that had a picture of saltwater toffees and a Jamaican flag, and it said candies from Jamaica. And and it was 500-gram shiny log of brick bud in there. And it wasn't super seedy, but it had seeds. And I'd been through a fair bit of it, and I had saved up about 2,000 seeds. And yeah, well, I was moving it. So it was, when you broke it apart, you'd always have some seeds falling apart, right? So anyway, I had a friend's mom who lived out in the country, and my friend said, oh, she's okay if we start some seeds out there. So we started all 2,000 in 4-inch pots.
Oh shit!
And put a little like rabbit fence around it and stuff to keep out the rabbits, and we let them grow for a few weeks. And by the time they started to I don't know, they were getting to be just over a foot tall, and his mom was like, you got to get these out of here. And there was one that had stretched a little bit, and it was showing purple hairs, the stigmas, and nothing else was even starting to sex yet. And it's like May north of Michigan, basically, and it was like, okay, the first May or June, the first one's showing some hairs, and I'm like, all right. So I told my friends, because there was 5 brothers that lived there, and so I said, okay, I'm just going to take this one plant, you guys can have the rest of them. And so they put them out all over the place, and but I'm sure most of theirs never finished. But I happened to just take the one that was the earliest. And later in life, when I got to Columbia in the Department of Risaralda, my second day in Columbia, 2016, I believe. Yeah, 2016 August. And I walked into the first farm I set foot on, and I saw a plant growing in his garden, and I was like, that's the first plant I ever grew. And then I realized that was Punta Rojo. I didn't even know it. But once I saw, because I knew I was in the land of Punta Rojo, I said, and I'm pointing at it going, is this Punta Rojo? He's like, yeah. And I was like, that's the first plant I ever grew. So you think how much like Colombian seed fell off the boat in Jamaica, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's mixed in the gene pool there. And I just happened to grab that pheno from that lot of seeds. But it just struck me like the other guys were so bowled over when they saw the buds I'd harvested that year, which were really colorful, big frosty buds. And we were just all over the moon about it. And I thought, yeah, there's a big difference to take the best one out of 2,000, you know, than the best one out of 10. It's still good if you got 10, you got 10, but, you know, you pick the best. Yep. But if you can make more and start selecting from more seeds, you know, it's not like if you start 10,000, you're going to find one 10 times better than if you start 1,000, but you might find one 10% better. You know, like it's incremental gains after a while, right? But it's still.
I think it's going to be interesting just because I've never looked at a plant this specifically or this hard or this closely before. And I've been growing cannabis for a few years. So I definitely look out for things that I enjoy in terms of growing the plant. But if I'm looking at putting one together, like I feel like I'm going to be noticing and learning so much more about it and about the different expressions that it'll be able to produce or the ways that it grows. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, that's the really thing that the breeders need to do, like to really do the work that Steve was saying earlier on the male selection. It's like to really know what that male does, you have to breed it to other things and see what it always brings so that you know, okay, now I know what this male brings to the equation. Mm-hmm. If you just selecting a male, you're just taking it, you know, you're not sure what is the dominant trait that's going to go through to the breeding, or what's the, you know, the recessive trait that might not show up.
Yeah, there's a degree of trial and error to selective breeding, and anybody that tells you otherwise is kidding themselves. And the people that go, oh, you can do everything in the lab, it's like, well, sure you can, but can you still not benefit from testing it in a field? I think you can, you know.
Yeah, you said to do that outdoor. You said to do that outdoor selection, like once you've done it, ran it twice inside, and then do one outdoor. But I'm just.
You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until you've done it twice inside. Okay. You can start anywhere in that cycle. I'm just saying, if you're trying to do 3 generations a year, and you have the ability to do one of those generations outside, even if it's not the most ideal place for it, it's still gonna, you know, the natural pressures, you know, will be enough.
My old school to get my plant to feel better. You want to find plants that indoor plant outside, that clone outside, let it veg real strong, get like beast mode like they always do in the ground, and then take some cuttings off of that and bring that back inside to grow over the winter time. But that rejuvenation out in the sun and pressures like yours, whatever it is, I truly believe in it. It's always, you know, been a little quick trick to, I don't know, get that vigor back.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're taking cuttings from the bottom as backups before they go to the field, if you can even, if you've got space, you can have 2 different rooting zones for your cuts. One of them on 12 hours. So then before they've even rooted, you probably know their sex.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can do that when they're ready to go to the field, but you haven't taken them yet. And then you only take out the females, not the males.
Yeah.
Right? The males you hold back. You don't want to waste room I always would hold the males back. I wouldn't put them in the field once I got going, you know. Yeah. So when I start, if I was just sowing a field from seed, absolutely no problem. That's my preferred way to plant, because I'm all about the efficiency. If I can sit on a seed drill or sit on a tractor pulling a seed drill, to me that's the holy grail. If I can just go lay it out and then come back in whatever spacing you set, you know, and just let it rain and grow the damn field. And I love just walking through it with ribbons and tying ribbons on my favorite plants and shit, you know, and numbering them. Because you don't even have to number them until you start to identify your favorites.
Yeah.
Unless you're keeping backup cuts. Like if you're keeping backup cuts and transplanting, then they're going out with a tag tied to them, you know, branch tags. So you're not losing it as easy. But if you're direct sowing a field from seed, then you're hoping to take cuts from the most promising ones and number them as you do that, you know, and you don't, that way you don't have to waste numbers with like the million plants or whatever.
I really like the idea of being able to like separate the plant in half and do that, you know, one on one side and one on the other to get double the, you know, breeding,
Results.
double the result of it, but in one plant still. I think that's
that's all you need to do. You can do 10 different crosses on one plant, and you'll see, even if you do 2 separate branches, that you can have absolute sensimilla in the rest of the plant. If you do it very carefully, that's what you should have.
So now you're saying to put that bag over it so you get like an envelope or a, what do you mean, like a manila envelope that you're putting
you can use a paper envelope like that, but even the parchment paper I collected on, that's usually what I would use. I would just fold that up and tape it.
Okay. And how long do you keep that on for before you're safe and like, all right, it's not going to spread to another branch? Or,
you know, I do it when there's no wind. If you can wait for a day that's just hot and no wind, go out and you can give it one of these and be done with it. Really, you can take the thing off it. You don't have to leave it on there. You just want to make sure you're not splashing it around on the other branches. Okay. So I usually do it on the bottom one. Yeah. Looks like Uncle Rick thinks it's time to smoke. Poor Uncle Rick. He looks like he's suffering. But yeah, you can just go paint it on. Like, you can use a paintbrush, you can use your finger, you can use the envelope. But yeah, if you collect it into a film canister, if anybody still knows what those are, you know, you can put it in a film canister and go out there just with your fingers and paint it on. Really.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So but you have to dry the pollen. If you try putting wet pollen away, it sprouts. So pollen sprouts with humidity, and that's how when you think of pollen, like it's like a seed under a microscope. So it needs a bit of moisture. As soon as it gets moisture, it sprouts. So it's got a long tail, like a seed has the radical root coming out. Pollen's like even longer, like it's just crazy long. So what happens is it lands on the stigma, which we used to call pistils, but they're really stigmas, right? So when it lands on the stigma, there's enough moisture in that sticky stigma that caught it. There's enough moisture to activate it, and it pops open, and it sends the tail down the hair inside the bract where it pollinates the calyx. And the calyx, you need a microscope to see. We don't, you know,
I feel like I'm on a magic
think that calyxes are those teardrops, but those are bracts.
Bracts, yeah.
Right. So the bud is made of bracts.
That's just the basics.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, so the birds and the bees, right? So the pollen goes in there, and it's real easy to just get one branch covered in one kind and tag it so you knew which dad it came from, and then do the same with the one on the other side. And I've seen plants with 10 bags on them, you know, or some people, I've seen other people take, when they're making fem tests, they'll take 2 branches on the same plant, treat one with silver, the other one not, and then they stick them in the same envelope. So when that one opens, it selfs itself on just one branch. Wow. Yeah.
Cool. Are you working on any projects currently?
Well, the main one is in Thailand, and I don't get over there that much because it's so far away. And so it's really remote work for me, you know, and it's not that much work because my partner does everything. And we've been partners, and I used to go over more, and we started like 5 years ago. So they really don't need my help much at this point, just a bit of direction and selections when I can get over there. But other than that, there's always the business end of it, moving seed, you know, so there's always something to do. But I've got a new one starting shortly in Ghana, and we're supposed to have license number 1, but they've just released their regs. This has taken over 3 years, this application there. It's been nuts. But you couldn't submit the application because they hadn't finalized the regulations, and they had a election and all this and that wasn't a priority for the government. And just about 2 weeks ago or 2-3 weeks ago, they released first edition of the regs. So the farm we have there, the field we have is on the Volta River. The Volta is the biggest freshwater, second biggest freshwater source in the world. Is huge. There's year-round water, and it's a 400-hectare flat sowable field right on there. So that's a 1,000-acre rectangle, just begging for a tractor. So that's going to be fun because I love equatorial plants, and I think that's where there's the most room for improvement too. But a lot of them have some very special aromas and flavors and effects, but they haven't been really, let's say, upgraded to modern standards, so they could all stand with a little formal intervention. But it's going to be fun, and it's not going to be super fun because it's very highly controlled off the get-go at least, but hopefully we can soften up the attitudes over there, which are pretty much against it. And then I still have some interest in projects, a couple different projects in Colombia. So those keep me busy. I'm always managing somebody on that. And then I've also did trademark the VeroSense, and I trademarked Third Eye Blind Tested as a certification mark against that should end THC inflation in lab shopping if it can be widely adopted. So I call those two my black and white projects. I say your bud is either seedless or it's not. Like, it's black and white. Your bud is either seedless or it's not, or it's black and white. Your product's either blind tested or it's not. So they're my black and white projects. But
so is that something that we would get a certificate, like you would send them to get tested, or is that something that you apply for in terms of?
For the Third Eye?
Yeah.
Third Eye blind testing. So that is a certification protocol for labs, and then they would share that, the requirements with the producers and processors. It's free for producers and processors to use these labs. The labs pay us a certification fee based on the sales we're sending them. So it's kind of like we're doing commission sales for them at the same time, but the certification mark will be based around this protocol. So we send the packaging, like the lab has approved packaging for the producers or processors to use, and then a renumbering system for the tags in the chain of custody, so that the technician doesn't actually know whose product they're testing.
I like that.
Then it gets connected afterwards. So it's pretty simple, but it's also, like moving a mountain to get industry adoption. So,
yeah.
But it should be.
You hold us accountable. And what? No, we don't want to sign up.
Well, that's the thing is there's a lot of them. There's a lot of competition in the labs because there's generally more labs than there needs to be for testing the amount of weed in a given jurisdiction. Like I heard in Kentucky, they had like 6 labs and 36 companies or something. Like, how's that going to work? Or 8 labs.
It's always set up fishy too. It's like when the lab's customer is the grow, then it's a lot of pressure on that lab to get some really good results because the other lab's giving good results.
That's right. So instead of giving them fake numbers to run on, give them a mark of integrity. So it's registered as a certification mark, like formally registered as a certification mark, like fair trade or certified organic or something, so that the companies say, hey, we know it's only 26% and not 36%, but it's really 26%. And then, and we're going to do some promotional benefits for the bud tenders that have to be educating the customers about what's different about this. So when they come in and go, I want your highest THC, they go, well, you can't necessarily believe the THC numbers are suspect. You can trust the producers that have their product blind tested, though, because there's no collusion. We've ended the collusion between the lab and the client because they got to go through our agents. So
it's like a third party. It's like,
it's the Third Eye. It's the Third Eye blind testing service. So the stamp is Third Eye blind tested.
Yes, I like that a lot. Very cool.
Yeah, so hopefully, yeah, and I'm trying to make it roll out as a, global endeavor. So, like in Thailand a couple of years ago, they wouldn't have needed it because nobody used labs. It wasn't required, but now it's required to use labs. So now the question, and I've got to see from our own results, like you send it to 3 different labs and get totally different results. It's not like they're even trying to give us fake high numbers. They just can't get their shit together, So some of them are better than others, but overall, I think the labs that want to be recognized as having integrity and the producers and processors that want to be recognized as having integrity will see that it's more important to do that than to put fake numbers on packs. And the bud tenders will be have to set up the details of it. In the States, it's really complicated because in Canada, it's one law for lotteries across the, or sweepstakes or whatever, there's one law for it across Canada, but in the States, it's every different state, right? So it's super complicated to I can't announce that this is what we're doing exactly because it's a legal minefield, but essentially we're going to dedicate a portion of the revenues, which are small anyway, because we're not charging a lot because we're not doing a lot, but the agents are doing a lot and they're getting a sales commission for running it. So it's basically a way of putting some, oh no. Anyway, happy birthday.
Stick around, hardcore.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see. We want to give something back to the bud tenders and have like a monthly draw in each region so that they get a cash reward based on how much the revenues for the certification body were that month in that area. So there could be a decent surprise for them. And I figure then they can all log in once a month and we'll have like the bingo balls going or whatever and make a little show about it, because that can take a while. Like if we have to do like 30 different regions in, between Europe and Thailand and Canada and 25 different states or whatever, it could take, if each one takes 5 minutes, we have to try and do like 2 minutes for every announcement so you can get through the bloody things in an hour, right? It could take an hour. But yeah, cash draw for bud tenders would be a pretty nice incentive, I think, for them, because they're the ones that have to explain it,
Yeah. And that encourages them to want to give a shit, which would be
that encourages them to want to give a shit. And then every month they'll have to tag us in something to be entered in the draw if they're at a dispensary that is eligible. And the only thing the dispensaries have to do to be eligible is to put a filter in their menu for blind tested,
Yeah.
Say, okay, so you can search indoor, indica, whatever, so you have the different search filters, so you can say, okay, I want third-party blind tested as well, so that
would be cool. More. You guys could have a web page that had like, these are the places that have
that's exactly it. So it's going to be a huge promotional ecosystem that goes out with this to really big up all the producers and processors that take part. And to really cast shame on those that don't, because if it's free for them to use it, we're not jacking what they're paying for lab work. You just pay what you're paying now, but you're gonna go through the program and work with one of the labs that follows the protocols to do the double blind or blind testing.
Okay, so there are all these labs, like you just said, X amount to dispensary or whatever, but also like, why is it still so expensive to get stuff tested at them? You would think that they'd want to drop their prices. And I'm looking at
of them have
the grower side. I can't take my stuff in to get tested reliably, and I also can't take it in at 3 different places cost effectively to compare those numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that's going to happen. But yeah, the reason.
But something like that, where if it's a lab that's trusted numbers, and I would be able to know and go to it, like that's not even important for the commercial side alone. That's important for the home grower to know they can trust that lab.
It's important for a patient who can't grow their own, has to go, rely on going to a dispo. They at least can trust, that okay, this is going to be some clean weed, and it's going to be. I can trust these numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a new testing unit out. I can't remember what it's called, but I know 2 guys that are actually involved in sales of them, I think, right now. And
Bubble Man. Nuts. You talk about the one Bubble Man's talking about?
It might be. I don't even know what he's doing. I was thinking of Drake. Was one guy I know. Drake and the other guy, and the other one was Julio in Mexico, and they both told me about the same unit. So I believe you. Bubble Man's probably in on it too. But if it works as well as it's supposed to, that'll be a huge help. And even if it's still out of the reach of home growers, it might be like a feature that a lounge or a dispensary could charge you $10 to come in and use it, because it doesn't use any solvents or any, anything there's nothing consumed in the process, because it's another infrared device, I believe. So there was one out of Israel that looked like R2-D2 a long time ago with the white and green, and it sucked. I think they went out of business, not surprisingly, but and this one's the same kind of technology, but apparently greatly improved.
There's the white pages and stuff kind of behind it, or it's all just. Is there?
I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, but I'm just saying there's hopefully better tech coming for testing. Yeah. That if it works as well as I'm assured it does, that it'll really put a dent in the cost of testing, because the labs won't have to use all expensive solutions with it, because they've got even the calibration fluids are expensive, and I'm no expert in running an analytical lab or any sort of lab, but I've dabbled with them, or I've owned them, so I have some idea about them. And the thing is, I do believe that infrared technology will get that good, and or other things like those ion scanners in the airport. Like if you have a seed in your suitcase, I mean, the ion scanners will pick it up. Like they've got crazy security now. When you insert, not in every country, but this was
not everywhere. I've gotten plenty of seeds.
Australia was one of the first ones to use it, and when you land in Vancouver direct from Australia, they just waved you through customs. They said anybody that just landed from Australia can go in this lane, and they just let you all get your bags and go, because they know already everything that was in everything you carried or checked in, because they have the most advanced scanning material.
That's good to know. I didn't know that.
And then now there was like 6. In the last time I think I flew in internationally somewhere big, they had exemptions for like Denmark, Switzerland, Australia. There was like 6 countries maybe that had this high-end scanning equipment. Wow. So I think that whether it's infrared or something else, there's going to be technology that makes these tests more and more affordable. And already, in Canada, at least, the prices have come down a lot for a Health Canada package, which is your testing to get all the requirements for Health Canada requires, right? So that's come down a lot in price, but they've basically been, a race to the bottom in pricing of labs, because there was just more lab licenses than there were clients for them. So it was. That's why they're become very corruptible, some of them, because they're like, well, I'm going to lose my business and I can't pay my mortgage, and they're just like, they're charging more, and they're saying, but we'll put whatever number on it you want, Yeah. So they get to charge more because they're doing that, and then the honest labs charging less, and they don't have any. There's no upside. So I'm giving them an upside to say, hey, now you can sell your product based on it being blind tested instead of sus numbers, and people will become hip to the sus numbers, like it's happening. So
exactly.
It's So I think it's a project that needed to be done. So it wasn't like a sure thing. This is a slam dunk. Like we know it's an uphill battle to get the adoption of this stuff, but I have a few people working with me now as, authorized dealers, let's say, authorized dealers that can be, connecting with labs in the markets that they're in. And I kind of like the idea of not necessarily giving people a specific market, although it might be the easiest thing to do eventually, but it's kind of nice if they can just sign people wherever they know them. So if you've got a friend in Germany that wants to be doing this, you can get them signed up. But first the first step, is you got to get a dealer in an area, Then you got to get a lab in the area. Then you can start bringing producers and processors. And so anyway, we'll see how that goes. But I just realized I've run over the hour mark here, and I don't want to cut Josh off because he's got some super beautiful garden to share with us.
What about me?
I'm listening. Well, I was going to say thank you, Steve. I really appreciate our time together. Steve, if I haven't mentioned it already, is our seed sponsor tonight, so we'll be talking more about that. But there's a couple of things that I really are quite important that I really want to get to. One, well, I think it's important. One, I wouldn't mind like an update, Josh, on what's going on there, and Emily, if you could bring us up to speed on the community grow along. So Dave, if you want to queue up something from Josh, I'm
jam straight, Rick. Get it out. Yeah,
we're waiting for
that new area. Oh, see, he's way ahead of me there. Yeah, so Josh, take over. Tell us what's going on here, man.
All right, so that's the second layer we finished today. So
I'm sorry, Josh. Maybe back up a little bit. I didn't tell us about the first layer.
Okay, well, the first layer is below the second layer.
Yeah. Thank you.
But as you can see, the pond is being outlined. Kind of looks like a little sperm there, So the pond is like on a second layer. Right here, I'm putting water in. So I'm kind of this is the second time I've put water in that. So I am basically just pushing down all that concrete sand into the pea gravel and letting it all settle and basically making it to where nothing can penetrate it, and all I'm doing is creating the E horizon in the horizontal system, and that is where all the water is stored. So basically, if you've ever seen an earth box or anything like that, that's kind of like a wicking system from the bottom up, and that's kind of what this does. And what I'm doing here is settling all that sand, and then the next layer that goes in is the sand and silt and clay mix from the reservoir that I live on here. And that's what's really going to give me a lot of that wicking action that's going to wick that water up from the bottom. Also, roots will go down and tap into the clay layer, and then they'll reach all the way down into that pea gravel. So, that's what I'm doing right here. From here.
Now, this layer, because of that concrete or whatever, it's going to be a hard, solid layer.
No, it's concrete sand.
It's concrete sand. It's not
but
concrete.
You can't move it still.
It's sand, not concrete. It's sand.
Well, I don't want it to move. So, like what you see there, I could sit there and just fill it up with water. It holds a tremendous amount of water already.
Can you move that sand still, or is it locked in place because of the concrete?
It's locked in place. That's what I want. I want it locked in. That's why the pea gravel is there, to give it structure, basically. So think concrete with rebar. So the pea gravel is the rebar in here, but I'm not using any real concrete. It's just sand. So I'm allowing the water to basically come down and seep through. So once I bring in the sand, silt, and clay that's from the reservoir, it's already aquatic. So I'm bringing it from an aquatic system and putting it into an aquatic system. And the whole point is to separate soil from the E horizon. So what I don't want is soil seeping down into this part. So in order for me to do that, I have to make it almost like concrete, but not. It has to be packed, basically, to the point where nothing can go any further. Even after decades and decades of breaking down, that's why it's so important for me not to have any organic matter in this layer, or in this layered E horizon. There should be zero organic matter. That's what we're trying to prevent from getting there, is the organic matter. So once I lay that next layer down of that sand, silt, and clay, it's basically like sand. It turns into, all you'll see is a layer of beach sand, basically, like the same stuff you would see, or if you were walking on the edge of a creek, that's what I'm putting in. It's already aquatic. But what I've done is I've laid it out in my driveway, and I've let the sun basically cook out all that bad biology. So I rake it out, and then I have to take and put it in a wheelbarrow and put some pea gravel in there and blast it with a water hose. And it gets all that organic matter out of that sand, silt, and clay from the reservoir, because that's where I'm bringing it from. Basically, is like a swamp. It's where the creek enters the reservoir, is where I'm harvesting from. So it's just full of leaves and sticks, and it smells like shit. It smells like a swamp, because that's kind of where it's coming from. So we have to get rid of all that. We have to cook it, we have to clean it, and then we can use it. So here's where I'm going outside. You're going to see what I'm doing. So here's the sand and silt that I was talking about. So I've already cleaned some of it in those buckets, but here I'm raking it out and I'm letting the sun. That's what it looks like. So that, see all the organic matter that's still in it, because I harvest it from the top. Okay, so I harvest it from the top. So that's where all the organic matter is hitting it from the trees, falling, the sticks, and all that shit's, falling over the years. We have to get all that out, because it's going in the bottom of our E horizon, which is where our roots are going to be sitting in water, which we can't have organic matter in that water. That's where all the that's where it goes anaerobic.
You're saying all of those, like what you're raking out, those bigger pieces and stuff.
See, I'm getting ready to pick up right here. This is what I want. That's what it should look like when I'm done.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, that's what it'll look like when I'm done. No organic matter, just pure silt sand. No organic matter, and some small clay in there as well. But you can't see the clay, because the clay is the smallest particle. So this is what it looks like. It's wet, so it's like almost like concrete. But it's a wicking machine, and it's basically cleaned. So I've composted it with the sun.
How heavy is one of those, man?
Oh, that's probably 100 pounds right there.
Oh my
fucking bucket.
It's extremely heavy, yeah. But I could sit there and blast it with a water hose, and it would probably hold 25 gallons of water.
Yeah.
In a 5-gallon bucket, because it would just absorb so much water.
That's wild.
Crazy.
So what's cool about it is that, it works, is that like when I put that in the bucket, all the excess water that I've been blasting. So the next morning I'll come in. So, all right, you'll see what I'm doing. What I'm talking about. The next morning I'll come in, and there'll be a 2 or 3 inches of water on top of that sand and silt, where all of it has been pushed up. So all that sand and silt settles, and it pushes up the water. So here's where I'm going to show you the wicking action of this sand and silt. So that black stuff you see on the edge of the creek used to be that color. That's what it used to be. But the worms and the biology turned it into worm castings. So what that does, look, you can see it wicking water already. It'll just wick
Josh,
water on up the
what
hill.
Fucking phone do you have? That's a great zoom, my guy.
That's just the new Samsung Galaxy.
Damn, that was awesome.
That's what I'm pointing at. See, that used to be that. Okay.
Okay.
Over time, the worms will turn. Here, I'm going to show you. There are the worms. So the worms are breaking. There's an earwig right there, and everything is just working that sand and that silt and that clay.
That's a nice purslane.
So if you bring this up into the terrestrial environment, where it wicks that biology right out of that creek water into the terrestrial side, so that grass is wicking all that. So all that grass is growing. And the reason it's so green is because the creek is flowing and it's aerated. So things go swamp shit when it's not aerated. So underneath, there's my hotel. This is my isopod hotel right here. Hey, look at them banging.
That's fucking wild.
Those are dairy cow buds.
Those are awesome.
So they're shredders. So they're breaking down organic matter on top. And that's what their job is. They're like the first stage of breaking down.
What is this apple challenge you got going on?
I think you need to cut that apple in half and put it down.
Well, that's the challenge. I want to see how long it takes the biology to break through the wax layer and break through the whole apple thing and break it down into nothing.
You should put it in the ground a little bit more, like disturb the ground and set it in.
I'm just gonna set it there. I want to see how long it takes.
It's gonna be like a McDonald's project.
Like it fell from the tree and just sat there, you know.
No, because it's got wax on it.
I know, but I want to see how long it takes.
You gotta get the wax off of it at least. I would have boiled some water and poured that wax off of it.
You know what I know what's funny is that underneath the apple, right at that one spot, like I call it the butthole of the apple.
Yeah.
I can see little baby isopods going in and out of that little butthole.
Man, they're
just they're working it. They're in there working it. So it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. Cool.
That's so cool to have an ecosystem that close right there at your hands. That's so cool that you've created.
To really watch it come together, and like that sand and silt, though, that's what I was showing you. That's the key to the whole. Really, that's really the bridge for the water. So it wicks up, it wicks down. I mean, it just wicks everything.
In your driveway, then, so you're raking it out and you're separating it that way. Is there a sifting layer that you do? Like, is there that step that you would do next? Do you pour it through any type of?
So that's when you put it in. After it gets to that color, I'll shovel it up, put it in a wheelbarrow, throw some pea gravel in there, and then just hit it with a water hose. And the pea gravel allows it to break up. Okay, if you don't use pea gravel in there, it'll just turn to like a hard. It'll turn to like concrete almost, but. If you throw some pea gravel in there, add some structure to that sand, and then blast it with a water hose, all the organic matter comes up to the top and floats up to the top. And then you just take your wheelbarrow and wash it like this and just let it flow right out the top of the wheelbarrow. Kind of like you're panning for gold almost.
I'm surprised you're using that much technology and you're not just like winnowing it in the wind.
Well, there's only a few ways you can do it, you know, and that's one of the easiest, fastest ways to remove the organic matter. If you don't do this, it's a crucial part for anybody who's going to ever do this. It is an extremely crucial part of the process to get rid of that organic matter. If you're going to harvest something from the clay, are you going to harvest something from a creek or a stream? It's going to have organic matter in it, and that is what you need to remove before you go putting it into the E horizon, because there is no flowing water in the E horizon.
If you have an excavator and you're able to dig into the ground and just pull out a nice deep pocket. Because I've seen excavators that are as deep as, you know, that little area you've got there. Are you able to get deep enough into the ground to pull up the layers that you're creating here? So you could just like copy it and plop it in? Or are you like condensing it? Like an excavator would have to go multiple layers down to get what you're getting in such a small area.
No, he's making it perfect. Like that layer right there, that's basically his mineral layer that will last him forever. That they can mine minerals from that forever.
The whole purpose of it, that's what makes it regenerative.
But I mean, it's copied after the earth and the layers on the earth. Yeah. So what I'm wondering is
deep. I'm mimicking bedrock, you know, basically. And then
okay.
But he's doing it in a condensed.
That's what I was wondering. Are you actually copying the layers of the earth, like to where? Is it close enough that I could just go out and dig it up layer by layer like that and have it ready to go? Or is that why you're doing it layer by layer? Because you're condensing it.
Yeah, he's more condensed. So like the layers outside might be a foot, 2 foot.
Yeah, see this. This whole time I've been thinking like, why not just go scoop it out? If you're gonna spend money on that, I could.
Well, you would not be able to put it back into its proper layers. This is all about layers. Okay, the earth is put together in layers. Boom, 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 and then you got. You know, different things like Titanic, all this crazy shit the earth does. But where I'm at, if you go and stick a shovel in the ground, you're going to hit organic matter. I'm going to get about 3 to 4 inches of good black organic matter. And then I'm going to get clay and sand and silt. And all that stuff is like thousands of years old. You know what I mean? Because this area where I'm at, it's got a lot of hard wood on it. So I know it hasn't been, you know, harvested in at least, you know, 200 plus years, because some of these oak trees around here are that old. So, I mean, I'm surrounded by this hardwood. So I have a lot of organic matter at the top. So it's kind of where I get the IMO for the top organic layer. But what we're building here is the E horizon, which is zero organic matter down there. So picture if we were to build, when I bought this property, I had to dig a well. All right. So just picture like, when you go on to this piece of little land that I'm building, if you were to set up a little hut, the first thing I'm going to do to get water on the land is I'm going to drill down to the E horizon. I'm going to get down to the water table and I'm going to pump the water up. Okay. That's what the roots are doing in this system. And the pond, as it flows through the creek, is wicking the water out, sending it down into the E horizon where it can sit, where the roots can then be wicked back it up. It can also be wicked up through the sand and the silt and the clay up into the A horizon, basically right where the soil meets the clay is where I want the roots, where I want the water to wick up to. Okay, right where the soil meets the clay layer is where magic happens.
You're going to be putting all of that stuff that you're sifting out into that really fine sand from your driveway. You're putting that on top of this layer to act as that wicking water barrier.
Yeah, the clay layer is a red clay. It's going to be a red. I
don't know what fucking layer we're at. Never mind. Oh my God, I'm so lost.
There's only three. Just picture organic layer, soil layer, E horizon. All right, and that's the water layer. So you got EAO. That's why I said EAO. I dug a hole. EAO. EAO. E is your water layer. E is your water layer. Okay. A is your soil layer. The trick is, the whole key is to separate soil from E. So separate A from E is the whole point here. I want to make sure that the damn soil can't seep down into the E over time. So I have to create literally a packed layer, just like the earth did, and compressed it to the point where nothing can penetrate it. Nothing can get down it. Even there over time, even the microbiology breaking down all that organic matter down there, breaking down the clays and sands, it will take thousands of years for them to break through all that. You know what I mean? So as the water seeps down through the soil layer, it'll hit that clay layer and slowly seep down, separating itself from that organic matter. And this is done indoors. I can do this indoors. I can just, like in my system, I have a hole there. You can look down to the floor. So I can actually see to the floor, which is kind of like my exit strategy if it fills too much up. So if I see the water coming up, getting ready to contact my soil layer, I can just take a shot back or a pump and pump it out.
Okay.
It's clean water. You know what I mean? It's been filtered through all the sand and silt and the clay. So at this point, it's coming out clean. So once I got to the point where there's so many roots in the system, there's no more water in the hole. Like it just wicks. Oh, yeah. It's just constantly wicking, and then the only water I'm putting back into the system is what I'm taking from the air in the dehu. So as the plants perspire, I'm capturing it in the dehu and putting it right back into the pond, and that's topping me off.
In your new section that you're building, you're putting a pond. Are you going to line that pond so the water doesn't seep through there?
Yeah, that's done. The pond is done completely in concrete, and then we seal that with pond shield.
I see. Okay.
Pond shield is just a 2-part epoxy.
Then you use your clay, the sand silt clay that you collect by the pond and stuff. You're going to use that to wick the water from the pond into sections that need water.
Correct.
Awesome. Okay. I think
sand silt and clay. The same stuff we're putting at the bottom, the same stuff we filtered and cleaned and all that.
Right.
All that goes in the creek, but we don't really have to remove the organic matter. We kind of want the organic matter in the creek because that's going to help. That's going to feed the plants that are growing up in the creek. You know what I mean? That's what would go in the bottom of the pond and into the creek. You know, because that's what's at top. That's getting aerated. So we're not worried about, going anaerobic.
Yeah. Well, plus you'll be probably treating it with labs. So even if it does go a little anaerobic.
All of that comes into play. Yeah, all of that. Using EM1, using labs, I've just learned to use Super Labs from Stephen Ray. I just made my first Super Labs.
Fuck yeah, how'd that turn out? Those are the blue ones?
Yeah, great. I mean, I nailed it on the first try, really.
Hell yeah.
All you really got to do is add spirulina algae powder to the mix when you're doing the milk.
At this point, Josh, I think you like shower in labs.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I freaking spray it on everything. It's kind of like a natural remedy for everything almost. Yeah, that's what we got going on. We're working on that, and hopefully it'll get done by the end of the year. It's still a long way.
Right on. Appreciate the update, Josh. Thanks so much. So what's going on here, Steve, is we're compiling a bunch of our chat to get an opportunity to win a seed pack from you, and then we'll have a race to determine the winner. And you had mentioned the Seeds of Anarchy that could be in this giveaway here. I wonder if you could maybe expand on that a little bit.
Sure. Well, it depends if the listeners. Well, first off, Seeds of Anarchy is a brand I came up with for kind of collabs and one-offs and stuff. So it's not official Spice of Life, but it's still seeds that I was involved in to some degree, And the ones in the U.S. are at Stars and Stripes Seeds, and those are 2024 Seeds of Anarchy, and they're almost gone. And given the uncertainty posed by the new farm bill coming up, is that we're probably going to stop selling seeds there, but we'll see, but probably. So we're just going to clear out what's left for this spring, which is really upon us. And there's not really that much left anyway, but we're just going to clean that up. And I do want to see what people can do with them. There was a little higher incidence of hermaphrodism than I would have liked with some of these femlines, but the plants that are so very worthy of keeping that I feel like it's worth the risk. You just got to be aware that you're going to be watching for them, But I've seen such stunning examples of each of these, from the sour cherry, the ego punch, the gargoyle. There was a few other ones too that aren't even left, like polar vortex and sunflower and snow bunny. There might be some snow bunny, I'm not sure. But either way, instead of a pack, since some of these, when they didn't ship well, that they left with good germ rates, but didn't, when we received them from ourselves, they didn't have good germ rates. So I don't know if they got cooked on the way. Anyways, there were some disappointments with this batch, just to be perfectly fair. But there's also some absolutely outstanding plants to find. So I'm going to give a small pack of each of them to whoever today's winner is.
Oh
my gosh, just thank you everybody who's letting me win. That's so great.
I put mine in there.
Good luck, everybody.
Hardly anybody's tried them, really in the States.
Super
because we only sent over a small trial amount. But if the winner happens to be in Europe, behind door number 2, we have Seeds of Anarchy 2025, which are only available in Europe. And those ones are not from Thailand. They're from another project. And they are all spritzer crosses. So they're, it brings, like the name says, it's kind of a light, fruity thing, the effervescent, I like that. I think that was an aptly named, release. But the all the things we put it to, we'd been testing out for a few years in Colombia. I had been smoking on various ones that a friend of mine had collected these and a lot more that we'd narrowed down for favorite mothers, and said, okay, these are all going to be worthy. And they've been made and tested and then made in bigger batches and made in bigger batches, and finally, certified for export and taken over to Europe. So those are in Europe. If Ned Denver is, well, whoever the winner is.
Well, what we're doing actually
is we're picking, these winners are winning spots in a race, and then they have to
race. I see. Okay.
Whoever wins the race.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, if they're in Europe, they can have a small pack of everything from the Seeds of Anarchy 2025 lineup. If they're in the US, they'll get the Stars and Stripes versions from the 2024s.
Is that animal on the logo for Stars and Stripes?
Animal.
Yeah, is that Animal from the Muppets?
I don't think so. I haven't seen it.
That little monster
Sam
thing. Yeah.
Uncle Sam. Yeah. I think it's Uncle Sam. That's who it is.
I like it. How many names are we going for this?
Let's do 12. Let's do 12.
Okay. Sounds
good.
So if you were to look into your crystal ball, Steve, how do you think this whole hemp bill thing is going to play out?
Well, there was a lawyer whose name eludes me, but he has a popular YouTube channel about cannabis law, and he had a very interesting analysis of the Farm Bill when it immediately passed, and it was pretty clear that it was outlawing seeds that came from plants, because it's at any part of the plant now conceivably for production or consumption was something that had to come from a hemp plant because it was a part of a plant that could be consumed. So seeds could be consumed edibles. But what he said is that makes the new loophole is going to be clones, because clones are never intended for consumption. So as the letter of the law in the new Farm Bill, clones are the new loophole, according to this lawyer. And you can probably just, if you search Farm Bill loophole, I'm sure that's the first thing that'll come up, probably, because it had a lot of views.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think agriculture, clones will be the two big ones.
Yeah, so I've already, even before that had happened, we had already started a verified clones program, which you can see more on breedersteve.com, where we have a verification certificate with an individual number and code for every clone from authorized propagators. So you can always track the chain of custody of that genetic. And if eventually somebody gets, a viroid or something, you can cut off the dead wood, cut off that arm. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Anyway, so there's a couple guys in the States that are verified propagators. There's Anthos Seeds in Vermont and Gabby Staten Island, Gabby SI clones in Cali. There may be more, but right now that's who's in the US with a few of official cuts. The three down there right now include Sweet Pink Grapefruit, Sweet Skunk, the original Sweet Skunk, and a Sweet Tooth 3.1, which was a Selft 3, Sweet Tooth number 3. So anyway, that's the three cuts that are on there now. Hope to, verify some worthy Blockhead and Shishkaberry to add to that soon too, and hopefully some other Sweet Tooth variations, because there's a number different generations of Sweet Tooth and different characters to be had. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, so there'll still be, Spice of Life and Breeder Steve clones will be going out through this verification, through the individual propagators, but easily tracked on this verification thing, so people know they're getting legit cuts and whatnot. Anyway, that's my take on the new Farm Bill is switch gears. And I was just happy I'd already switched gears but I'd added the clones to the seed business. And we said, we're only doing the seeds because it's legal. If they're going to make it illegal there, we'll stop.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it's a weird thing because...
Do you know what's still legal, though, Steve? Birdseed's still legal. especially exotic bird seed.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be people. There's gonna be people working around it, but I did this distribution company with 2 partners that they're not hardcore stoner fam. One's sort of getting there. The other one not really, but super friendly and nice people that I enjoy working with. But they're also want to be extra cautious. They're more conservative perhaps, but that's fine. So with the seeds for Stars and Stripes seeds, we're just not going to be doing cannabis seeds there probably. But if other people are going to keep selling bird seed, that's awesome. No problem with that, of course. And that's the thing that saddens me is it's like they're squishing the little guys by keeping seed down, because seeds serve the homegrown market more than the commercial market. Like, the big companies aren't buying seeds. They're buying clones, They grow from clones. They don't grow from seeds. It's the hobbyists that play with seeds, It's largely some professionals, of course, but
the clone banks are buying their seeds from home growers. They're buying their cuts from home growers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But it's really disappointing to see the direction it's taking. Let's put it that way. It is disappointing.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, we'll go back to what we've known best. If that's the way they want it. If that's the way they want it.
Well, the funny thing is once it's legal, seed business almost dries up, because then people can walk into a shop and buy clones, and then even less people want seeds. And if it's totally legal, less people even want to grow their own, because they just want to walk in and buy a live rosin cart or a pre-rolled, and they don't even bother growing. It's the places like Czech right now, Czechia, they on January 1st this year, they allowed a provision for homegrown, and no social clubs are allowed, no dispensaries are allowed, no clone sales are allowed. The only thing that's allowed is seeds. The seeds are unequivocally legal, and small amount of homegrown is unequivocally legal. In that market, seeds will do good, because it's a captive market. It's not fair that they can't buy clones, but on the other hand, for a seed selling opportunity, it's a big opportunity to sell seeds there. But I don't feel like that's great, strategy for people. You don't want to have these exclusionary captive markets. Is not ideal, but I'm just saying, realistically, in seed sales, those are where your seed sales are good. Like in France, seeds are legal, but growing it's not, and consuming it's not, and they're really pretty tight about it in France. But seed sales are really big there, because if people want a decent supply of weed, they can't count on the black market necessarily, so they're gonna grow their own. They'll take the time to grow their own, so they have some proper weed. And that makes seed sales good. If they could walk into the store and buy clones, like when I moved to Switzerland, they sold clones, trays like that. They would sell trays of clones all over the entrance to the supermarkets, right, with all the Dusty Millers and marigolds and tomatoes and peppers.
That's awesome.
So normal. There's no license, there's no taxes, and there's special thing, it's just regular bedding plants, period. And that was it. And there was no licenses needed. It was just normalized. And I really naively thought, within 10 years, the whole world will be like this. And they went backwards. So it's not like that there anymore. But I remember looking at the plant tags, and they had like color pictures with like plant now, harvest mid-October, good drainage, full sun, heavy feeder. They had Compolti hemp right beside Great White Shark. They'd have, you could get a tray of hemp clones, or just get one little pot out of it. And Ed and I went over there on a consulting gig, and it was for a place that was cranking out like ungodly amount of clones. I can't even remember exactly how much. They had 200 workers on this farm. I mean, it wasn't just doing clones, but the clones were, I don't know, 500,000 clones a month or something. They're selling them to the grocery stores for $5 each, and the grocery stores are selling them for $7.50 or $8.
Holy moly!
Yeah,
Let me do
so
that.
it was a big business. They had,
that.
they were, you know what happened? How they got that big glass house where they did the mothers and clones was they had there was an old farmer there that had a very expensive glass greenhouse for poinsettias, and then he had one sale a year to the one big supermarket chain in Switzerland, and that was his crop. He grew these poinsettias, and suddenly they opened up a free trade for agricultural stuff, and now they're competing with Moroccan poinsettias. So he was out of business overnight because of this new trade deal. And he was like, I'm going to lose my farm and my $20 million glass house and all this. So he rented it out to these three brothers that are like, we'll rent it. But we're going to grow weed in it, a lot of weed. He's like, I don't care. You can pay the rent. It's yours. You know? So it was so funny because I met him. He was there. He kept one little section for his poinsettias where he still had some, like, I have to grow some for friends and families. I'm like 80 and I'm the poinsettia guy my whole life. So he still needed like a few beds of poinsettias there, a few tables. But yeah, it was so amazing to see that it challenged your perception of what it could be like. Yeah. And it was that normalization that blew me away the most, that it was just like, and the other people walking into the supermarket don't even see them. Like they're just invisible to them. Yeah. Because they don't care. Nobody cares. They only care about what they're doing. They don't care about what anybody else is doing. They're very introverted.
Well, you got to think about it too. Just in the population of all the people who smoke cannabis, the growers are still a tiny portion of that.
That's right. Yeah, and it's even less. Once it's convenient to buy it, I'd say a huge bunch of the home growers drop out because they just like, fuck it, I can just buy it. Yep. I've seen it a bunch of times. Like I've had a couple of friends, and one friend that puffs a lot. And then he quit, and he was, you know, he had some challenges as well, like to move and whatnot. But he stopped for a while, and he was buying weed, and then he's like, "Man, this is so expensive. I can't keep buying weed. I gotta get set up again. This is stupid," you know. And he was just a dude that like didn't leave the house without a half a pound wherever he went, and he would just stop at your place and open up the half pound and start rolling joints. And he was just a absolutely heavy user. And he got into smoking rosin. Like I got him dabbing years ago, and he's like, oh, I've been buying dabs at the store, but man, it's expensive. I gotta get set up again. And he says, you know, any friends that, you know, make a jar for that's not store prices? I'm like, well, maybe, you know, but it's not it's not my scene, you know, the buying and selling of it. I just don't, you know, at home. I mean, in the world, yes. I'm one of those people, whenever people would ask me to buy some weed at some stages in my life when I was working most, and people would say, you know, can you sell me some weed? I'm like, what do you want? And they're like, just an ounce or something. I was like, well, I'll just give you an ounce. But if you want a ton, go talk to me. You know, then it gets interesting, you know. But, yeah, let's have some fun. I'm just happy to make sure I grow extras to give away, because I make most of mine into hash because I'm too far north to grow absolute competition grade stunning bud. It can be really, really nice if I do it like that, but for the natural season, it's just too far north. But good altitude, and I can keep them dry. It's pretty dry here, and I have a cheater outdoor technique under my back porch because it's facing south and the sun's low enough in the sky that gets that afternoon sunlight, but it never gets rained on. So those buds never get rained on. So that's a nice thing. But I can make hash from it that just is eye-wateringly good. So I just end up with a little more hash than I smoke every year at this point, because I don't smoke as much as I used to. And I like just having little hits through the day of it rather than getting totally zone all the time. Like I don't go for a big fatty most of the time these days. Like honestly, I'm becoming a lightweight in my old age, but I used to always have a fat hash spliff in my mouth or a big hash joint.
Oh, what you guys?
And now I miss you a day.
Oh, here it comes.
Roger.
Lucky number 7.
That was awesome. Nice work, dude.
Right on.
That name sounds very familiar, so I'm just gonna bring it up and see if we've got your current address, buddy.
Yeah. We have a winner.
Winner. Okay, so I don't have a last name here. I want to make sure. Can I get you to just say yes or no if you're living in Massachusetts?
Yes, let everyone know where you're living at if you're comfortable with that. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, did I narrow it down? Come on. Hey, listen, Steve,
it's a tiny area. It's not very big.
Steve, I'm so grateful to get to know you a little bit more, but we'd be remiss, Emily, if we didn't tell everybody about the community grow along.
Yeah, absolutely. We are getting in entries. Anybody who does want to participate in the Mr. Toad grow along, the seeds that we are going to be sending out that were selected for this are going to be the Serious Dank. And that is a cross of Ghost of Stardog to One Hitter Quitter. They are fem seeds. We're going to keep taking in submissions until this Friday, the 13th.
Submissions for
let's do the weekend. Let's give everybody the weekend.
Okay, yeah. So everybody get your entry in by Monday. Not your entry, but like your
go to Discord.
Interest form. There's a form on Discord. We can actually link it if you have that link to the form right here in chat as well. For anybody who does want to click on that, and sign up. We're just going to need some basic information. Basically, we need to know where to send the beans. So
send the beans.
If you'd like to participate, please very much so. Fill that out. And we will, we are hoping to have everything out to folks by the 420 range. We're not telling you to pop them on that day, but on and or around would be cool so that we can all keep on the same track. The Discord through Seed Person is going to be where we keep everything updated announcement wise, or here weekly, Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern.
That's seriously
so far, I mean, it is seriously dank, but we've got about 20 entries right now, which is awesome. I think that's super cool to have that much community interest already, and we've only had, the form up for a handful of days. But
there's 20 on the form. I've got 34 that are signed up on Discord.
Man, I didn't look.
34.
Yeah, there's 34 on Discord, but only 19 or 20 that signed up through the form. So
well, I need that stuff on the form because that's what I'm sending out to Mr.
Yes,
Toad.
we need your address.
I don't care who said I'm in on the Discord. You don't count if I don't have a submission on that entry form. Okay?
Perfect. Yes.
Thank you. Make it easy on Mr. Toad. He's hooking us up with some free.
Yeah. So once I get those names to him from that submission form, that's it for entries. That's who he's going to send stuff out to. If you would like to be included in our grow along, totally free to enter. If you want to be a part of the Discord and show pictures, if you just want to do a hashtag on Instagram, no problemo. But you don't really have to pay anything. Mr. Toad is really helping to just overgrow the plant and send it out.
You could probably even email an update to Rick. If you had pictures.
Rick would love it.
Yeah, Rick would love to receive your emails.
Yes.
If you send him Polaroids in the mail, you never know what you might show up next week on the show.
Rick
never know. No. All right, I got a little bit of business I need to take care of. Hang on real quick.
Yes,
Okay.
Let's do it.
And I've got a little bit of business I've got to take care of before the end of the show.
Boston Bob. I appreciate you, Boston Bob.
All right.
Our seed sponsor next week. And Josh, tell us about our guest next week. I'm really excited about this one.
Maurice from Agro Soil. We call him Mo. Agro Soil. He's the guy that I sent my soil down to. Actually, I just sent him a new sample yesterday, and he's a microscope guy. He went through Matt Power's course, and he's big into it. I mean, he's really into the microscope. Let me put it to you this way: making ferments and just really growing biology and finding different ways to make biology grow in the soil. And it's really cool. And you get to see like how the soil actually works, like what's going on in there, and like all the different types of microbes and nematodes and all kinds of crazy stuff. It'll blow your mind how the soil actually operates.
Actually, Dave, the other day, as I typically do, I totally forgot in the middle of a sentence what I was taught, what I wanted, but it did come back to me in the middle of the, and it just came back to me now. So what I was talking about was Josh at one point said, okay, in my hand right here. Okay, I gotta back up. I'm not a deep thinker. I don't do any critical thing. None of that shit. I'm just like, I'll accept shit for what it is. And anyway, Josh says, right here in my hand, these worm castings. There's more microbes in these worm castings than all the people in the face of the earth. And I'm going, holy shit! And I told this to Russ, and Russ says, well, yeah, but did you know that there's more? And he said something else that was even more mind blowing. And I'm going, whoa. And then Russ said, okay, and the space between a neutron and a fucking proton or something is greater than the distance between all these different stars. And I'm, okay, you know what? It's the top of the hour.
You really should get music to play him off now and again.
Steve, thanks so much, man. I really enjoyed our time together. We do an outro. Please stick around for that. Josh, appreciate the update. And as always, chat, we love you. And look forward to next week. And Russ and Emily, take us out on a high note, please.
Well, I just want to say thank you again, Steve. I appreciate getting to meet you and chat with you and the awesome conversation that we've had. I do want to give everybody a heads up.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to give everybody a heads up that Steve actually is going to be on an Ask Me Anything panel with myself and another member of the Bite Me Cannabis community, Monkey. And that's going to be in the Bite Me Cannabis Club on Thursday, April 2nd. 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you would like to join, if you got questions, pretty much open panel. Like Steve said, he gives out great dating advice. So send him his way. Otherwise, I hope you guys all have a great night. We'll see you next week. So
much love, everybody.
Stay sticky.
Have a good one.
Wednesday nights, the vibe is right. Uncle Rick's got the stories that light the night. Little E-Bud by his side, they're ready to go. Spartan grown on the screen, putting on a show. Let's gather around, bring your favorite strain. Anything grows, let the good times reign. Live chat buzzing, the energy's high. With every giveaway, we reach for the sky. Let's be buds, oh it feels so right in the heart of the evening, and everything